Joe Brady, Bills offensive coordinator, joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. What's going on, guys?
We're hanging out. It's a nice day. It's going to be a hot one again. How are you?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. First day in pads, baby. Here we go.
All right.
Yeah.
Confirmed. Yeah. Finally confirmed. We'd heard it a couple different places. First day in pads. So
there you go. That's what I break the news.
Yeah. So what does that mean for you? Like you say, good day to do that?
Yeah, it's football. Look, at the end of the day, I know this. Don't get me wrong. OTAs, the first 4 practices are extremely important and everything. But football's played with your hands and the pads, and you learn a lot about guys, right? Like the physicality, the way they play. Can they still play with technique? So once these start going, that's when you get to see a lot.
I was going to ask if it's more exciting for the offensive guys or the defensive guys, but I feel like you seem pretty excited about it. So who's more excited?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that if you're a football player, you wake up today knowing that our pads are on, you get to finally play some football. But look, it's pretty tough running the football when you're just in helmets, right? And so you just really kind of just promote the technique and everything. But right now you get to see the level of physicality, and now it's kind of real football. And so you always see that first day, like, are guys amped up? What's the energy like? Should be good, but now it's about, can guys play under control now that the pads are on and the anxiety and the stress are kind of rolling.
Yeah, and around the league, I think I saw Atlanta had a padded practice. They had a bunch of fights. Like this time in camp, most teams kind of wait a couple practices in. So around the league, maybe tempers flare in this scenario.
Yeah, and I'm sure you always know the type of guys and who's usually the ones that are probably going to start it or whatnot. But yeah, it's football, and tempers get going. There's that level of physicality. You'd rather toe the line than and get guys to go, as opposed to having to hold them back, and then tell them to get going. So I'm excited for today.
Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady joining us. Before we get to the what's going on right now, what does your offseason look like? What do you do when you step away? How much time do you take away, and what are you doing with your time?
Yeah, usually you don't really get away after the season. You finally get to kind of meet my wife again, meet my son again. You kind of go in hibernation for the whole season, but fortunately in the NFL, we don't have that off season. We just kind of get going and get ready for the next season. So, but this past month, I always try to kind of clear my brain. And so my wife, my son, we went down to the beach in Florida, and just to kind of relax, get your mind right, and come back. But outside of that, you're kind of nonstop football all the way through.
Is it just lay on the beach, read a book, play golf? What is it for you?
Yeah, no, it's literally chase my 2.5-year-old around. So try to give my wife some help. And look, I'm as pale as it gets, so me and the son aren't really great friends. But I had a lot of fun just kind of change the scenery, just switching it up, and kind of get that antsy when you get on that flight back home. You land in Buffalo, it's ready to go.
When you look back at last year, do you think about full picture? Do you think about all the success? Do you think about what might have been different? When you look back and think about it, how do you view it?
Look, I think there's a bunch of different ways you can kind of view it. You can sit there, you can look at all the success, all the how our guys played well, the ways that some guys came in and how they were able to adapt in the offense and kind of fit. You can look at when plays didn't work, or opportunities that we have that it didn't. And so it's I think the biggest thing is when we go through our season and we look back at the season, we don't just focus on the good or only focus on the bad, because I think then you lose sight of the big picture. There were some times where some really good plays but happened that the scheme might have been terrible, and we just have a freak quarterback, or there might have been some plays that might not have went well and the execution wasn't good enough. But if I got in that situation again, would I call the same play? And so really just take an opportunity to just kind of dive in and just kind of look at everything in a whole. And one thing I can tell you, we obviously have to get better, right? And so we're starting all over right now, having to go earn it, and hopefully we're better this year than we were last.
Is that reflection any different for you compared to maybe this time last year? You were the interim coordinator. Before that, it wasn't the whole season, versus you get a whole year to look at how it went. So is that any different for you personally?
Well, I think you get I think the biggest difference was the opportunity of what the beginning of last offseason looked like compared to the beginning of this offseason. You're kind of focusing on this offseason as you still have an opportunity to look back. Hey, what can we change? What are we going to do differently? We have a lot of guys back compared to last season, in terms of understanding kind of the vision for how some of these guys are already utilizing their skill sets and trying to put together, where last year there was a lot of receivers, offensive line, new running backs. It was just putting it all together. This year we kind of have a better feel of who some of the guys are, and now how can we expand on it, or some of the new pieces kind of put them into it.
Yeah, the continuity point, there's a couple new receivers in. How unique is that for your career, college and pro, to have like all the linemen seem to be the same, the quarterback room, like it feels like a huge portion of that offensive roster is the same people.
Yeah, I think, look, anytime you can have continuity, especially if, the people that you had back work together well, there was, they enjoy being around each other and they understand how each other kind of plays, especially at the offense line and the quarterback position, right? Like that's the two most important, right? Or, skills. And, so I think that's huge for the guys, but at the same time, sometimes we can have the tendency of like, hey, the guys are back, so we know we're good at this, or hey, the guys are back, so we can kind of get complacent and feel like we got to do something with some of the other guys, and it's like, no, like we can't lose sight on kind of what got us to whatever point we ended up getting to last year, and so fortunately we got the right type of guys here in the character, so it makes my life a lot easier.
Bill's offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. As you say, we got to get better. Is there a thing you want to get better? You could say more points. You could say better efficiency. But was there something in the offense last season you felt like we could use a dash of whatever it might be, intermediate passing game, vertical passing game, runs in the red zone? Like, are there any things that you're kind of keying in on where you would like to be better?
There's plenty. I'd be lying to you if I felt comfortable, like kind of showing, spreading it out there, because that's obviously something that we gotta, grow this year. But look, we obviously have tendencies. You put, like you're saying, coming back off of the previous season, I only called so many games. Now I have a full season, and so it's like when the more that you put stuff on tape, the more that people understand how you might call a game and how, how your guys kind of play, and so. There's so many elements that we can get better at, and we just have to make sure that we're not only focusing on those and then losing sight on the things that we did well. And so that's where I kind of always feel it, of not just losing sight on that. And sometimes you look at the end of a season, you're like, man, we were so good at that 2 years ago. Why weren't we good at this past year? And it's like, did we still put the same emphasis on it? And so that's the delicate balance. But I hope there's a lot of things that you guys see next season that it's like, hey, that was an improvement on the previous season.
What kind of role can you play in helping Josh develop chemistry with the target? Sometimes we watch, we think, oh, he's got it with that guy, and maybe with this guy over here, whether he's new or they're just trying to get improved chemistry. I'm thinking about Josh and Dalton Kincaid. How can you help make the chemistry kind of really hit?
Well, I think sometimes it's just starting the dialogue, and I think that's some of the biggest growth that Josh has just had in general, is just communicating with the wide receivers exactly how he sees it. You see him after practice kind of working it. So we might be out at practice, and I might call a play with the intent of getting Dalton Kincaid the ball. And whether whether it was a completion or not, sometimes the incompletions are some of the best things. And I know it sounds awful. And look, don't get me wrong, in games I want the completions. I'll take a bad looking play that ends well. But right now, some of it is, man, Josh needed to feel that type of throw of like, hey, now we can talk through what that ball. So when we get into the film, it's like, next time we get in this situation, Dalton, this is where that ball has to go. I don't want you to do anything differently. Sometimes people have a tendency, if the ball wasn't completed, the receiver naturally feels like they have to do something differently. And so right now, him getting a feel of understanding what kind of ball do I have to throw to Keon Coleman as opposed to the type of ball I have to throw to Josh Palmer. And so working through those, I always call him, I'm one of Josh's biggest fans, but I'm also one of his biggest haters. And sometimes when when bad happens in training camp, sometimes that's really a positive for me, and I kind of smile. I'm like, all right, that's good, because we're going to be able to talk through that. And so I have to just make sure I'm consistently staying on it, and I'm putting him in stressful situations so that he can make the decisions to be able to then have that communication. On
the decision making, one thing I've wondered is the turnovers from last year. 8 turnovers last year, fewest since the merger, which, congrats. I think anything that ends with fewest since the merger is usually pretty impressive. How repeatable do you see that being? Maybe not to be like right at 8, but to have an offense that either the way it's built or the players themselves are at the top of the league or near the top of the league and not turning the ball over.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, after the first drive last year, we were on pace to break the all-time record for turnovers because we fumbled on the first drive of the season, strip sacks. So to be able to do as well as we did, giving up the least amount of sacks and turnovers after the first drive was a pretty good improvement. I think at the end of the day, it's stressing it. It's important. Look, turnovers are going to happen. There's going to be sometimes guys make good plays, and sometimes we might not have turned the ball over, but it was a turnover-worthy play. And, so sometimes even when we're watching tape, we can't just focus on the result of it, where it's like, hey, I know the DB dropped it, so we're good. Like, no, that was a turnover. And I think it's important to the guys. We understand if we don't turn the ball over, we're going to win a lot of football games, and understand that style of play. And so we stress it on the practice field as the ball on the outside arm is the decision making where it needs to be, not just on the result of the play. And like I said, we got the guys that they kind of take the ownership and kind of handle it themselves, and that accountability makes my life a lot easier.
Bill's offensive coordinator Joe Brady. When we look at the ultimate goal, this team is a Super Bowl caliber team. We say it all the time. I'm sure you guys feel that and think that. Do you feel like it comes down to a couple plays in those moments? I mean, I guess I wonder how it feels to have been that close and to be that close, knowing that you might be right back there in the same spot, basically the same year, and it's just a couple plays. Like, does that drive you? Does it drive you nuts? Does it kind of wash out hey, sometimes it's out of your control, sometimes it's in your control?
Yeah, look, like at the end of the day, we've had the ball with the opportunity to go score to win the football game the last 2 years, and we need to get it done, right? And that falls on me. And so, but I don't want our guys thinking that it's, hey, when we get in these critical moments, I have to do something extraordinary. And sometimes just doing our job and just executing and being at everything that we've done in training camp is in those moments. We don't have to change who we are. And so, some people say it's just a couple plays. Well, it could be some of these plays right now we're doing in training camp that is what's going to make the difference in. And I know it sounds crazy, but in those moments, sometimes it's like, hey, can we do the simple better in the most critical moments? And there's our detail and our execution where they need to be. And so that's something that I kind of stress. If the guys feel like in those moments that I have to make the play, that's usually when bad things happen. And so I hope we get those opportunities again this year, and I hope we're doing everything we can to earn it this year.
All observers said yesterday Keon had a pretty nice day. Keon Coleman.
He did. And look, like even when it's kind of the same thing we talk with Josh. It might be an incomplete pass, or it might be a drop. It might be a really good play, and we're coaching every little detail of it. So trying not to get caught up on the results. And but I liked how Keon played last year. I've said that to everybody. Obviously the injury was unfortunate, but just seeing his dialogue and his communication with Josh. Now the pads are coming on. You can really see wide receiver play. Like wide receivers, pads is critical for them. So, obviously it'll be a huge run emphasis today. So it's not but you get to see a lot about receivers in the run game. It's important to us, and so you might not see a lot of the splash plays from the wide receivers today, but you'll get to see you'll learn a lot about our football team.
On Khalil Shakir the other day was talking about his ability to beat man coverage and new techniques and things that maybe he's been working on to do that. Do you feel like, even though he's been in the league a few years, that he has maybe another step in that area, beating man coverage maybe specifically, and where he plays? How do you see Shakir and maybe another step in his game?
Yeah, no, it's Khalil is such a conscious player, and he sets goals himself and understands opportunities and ways he has to get better. And part of the thing is we don't get a lot of man coverage, and so it's how can I work these things without getting a lot of practice first, without getting a lot of looks at it in season and games, especially when you're playing in the slot, the way the DBs kind of cover you in the slot. A guy like Taron Johnson is going to cover you differently than a guy outside at Christian Benford. And so, but the intentionality in the release game to be able to create that separation, it's not all just speed. But in order to get the separation, it's how do I run the routes, and just sometimes it's slowing you down. And so getting Khalil to understand that and the leverage and whatnot. And but he's so conscientious in everything that he does that, if we get man coverage this year, I'm excited to see how he kind of performs with it.
You broke your streak of 1-0 tweets.
I did?
Yeah, for the Florida Panthers. You did it for the Florida Panthers. Back-to-back Stanley Cup champs.
Back-to-back, baby.
So that's not like a bandwagon thing or anything, right? Like, you're from that.
Yeah, I'm from South Florida.
Yeah.
Look, my high school graduation was in the arena that they kind of play in. No, don't get me wrong. Like, South Florida sports, in general, it's not like Buffalo right here, where Florida Panthers growing up, it wasn't like I was the Pavel Bure type of Ole Jokinen type, but it wasn't where you're selling out and everything right now. But so I'd be lying to you like I'm watching every game. I'm not that diehard. I'm a baseball, football, and Heat, but the Panthers, I do enjoy watching it. Just like when the Sabres get rolling, I'm gonna enjoy watching them.
It's very Fort Lauderdale, right? More than it is Miami for them.
Sure. Yeah, because they're it's just like any when you play the Dolphins, right? They show South Beach, right? But we know where that stadium actually is, and so but that's very much a Fort Lauderdale crowd
Yeah.
as opposed to the Miami Heat South Beach type of vibe.
Right. That's right.
All right. Yeah, I'm just scrolling.
I gotta change it then. I gotta. I don't know. Obviously, probably the Buffalo fans don't probably enjoy seeing.
No.
But
I think they're fine.
That's fine.
Playoff hockey. There's nothing like playoff hockey, and when the Sabres go to the playoffs, I'm going to enjoy going to those playoff hockey games because it's a lot of fun to watch and be part of.
And now the countdown is on. The next 1-0 tweet.
Let's go.
Sunday night, Baltimore.
That's it.
We'll be ready for it.
That's it. And everyone sees it as it only starts in the games, but it's the mindset that we have every single day right here. And so I don't care how it looks. I don't care if it's pretty. I don't care if it's ugly. Find a way. There's no pretty losses and there's no ugly wins. You find a way at the end of the season. No one cares about the scores that we might feel after end of the season. It's like, it was a 7-6 game at the end of the season. We just saw that we had one more win. So that's what we're just trying to get our guys with the right mindset of that. Is it don't matter how, just find a way.
Very good. Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady. Enjoyed today's practice, full pads, and good luck this season.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Jeremy and Joe, be back in a moment from training camp here from St. John Fisher on WGR.